Alright, hello. Gonna do a guide for just Sun Fury Arcane. It's significantly better in single target and looking like a strong pick for Mythic Plus. Spellslinger is, like I said, a little bit behind in single target, and it doesn't really make up for that in Mythic Plus. And on top of that, it has a pretty bad tier set in that you need to be paying a lot of attention to weak auras and harmony stacks at like all points of your rotation. And I think that a lot of people are going to struggle with that, especially in single target. Its AoE is a lot more palatable because of orb giving you all your or saturating all your harmony procs. But in single target, it's pretty terrible. So I'm gonna make this for Sun Fury, and if Spellslinger becomes Omega OP later, perhaps I'll uh, make one for Spellslinger as well. But Sunfury is all you need. It's what you want to play come, tomorrow, Tuesday, whatever. And yeah, it's going to serve you very well in Raid. If any of you are unfamiliar with Arcane, the basic introduction you need is that Arcane is like a builder spender spec. If you never wanted to use your spender unless it didn't cost anything. So the whole of Arcane's kit around using like Barrage is basically only use Barrage if you can be refunded it when you're playing Sun Fury at least. And Arcane's main proc is Arcane Missiles, which is what causes you to, stop pressing Arcane Blasts repeatedly. And the reason you do that is for this buff it gives you called Nether Precision, where consuming clear casting increases the damage of your next two Arcane Blasts or Barrages by 20%. So ideally, you would always have this buff. So you would missiles, blast, missiles, blast, and replace a blast with barrage whenever you had a way to fully refund its charges. But we don't get enough missiles for that. So even then, what do you do when you don't have Nether Precision, right? And you don't have Arcane Missiles? The answer is you just press Arcane Blast. So you can pretty much autopilot Arcane, just pressing blast until you get missiles, and then you missiles, and then you blast. But we do have a couple buffs that make us barrage, right? And there's only two really as Sun Fury. The first one is going to be Intuition, where it's just a random proc. You just have a weak aura show you an icon, and you're like, okay, now I want to use this into Nether Precision if possible. So then you would just barrage, and then you would go back to blasting. And then the second one is going to be Glorious Incandescence. What this is it's kind of silly, but the way Sun Fury works is every like 6 times you blast or barrage, you generate the sphere, and that gives you a buff, which increases the damage of your spells. And then you consume that buff, and then consuming that buff gives you Glorious Incandescence. So essentially, every 7 Arcane Blast or Barrage, you get a free Arcane Barrage. So this and this are primarily what you're barraging around in, single target. So you're just pressing Arcane Blast. I have this counter, right, that will go up to like 6, and then it will turn into the new buff. So this is the buff I have to consume. I have missiles, so I'll get another precision, and I'll just blast barrage, because consuming that burden would give me Glorious Incandescence, which is this, which refunds the Arcane Barrage, right? So most of the time you might be in a situation where you just see burden and then you just queue a blast and barrage. You don't need to queue it. It's just that the next one's going to be Glorious Incandescence after you consume burden with barrage or with blast. Sorry. So it's pretty easy to do that way. And then the other thing is Touch of Magi just gives you 4 arcane charges. So that's why you kind of barrage touch always, because I now still have 4 arcane charges, so it's just a free barrage. That's the whole theme of Arcane is press blast and missiles in that kind of sequence of missiles, blast, and then I don't have any missiles, so I just keep blasting until I get it. And I missiles, and I blast, and then I would barrage because of burden. But yeah, you just kind of keep track of those 2 buffs and make sure you're pressing your cooldowns well, and that's all there is to it. So I would bet money on Sun Fury Arcane being the prog spec for, at least 3 bosses, if not the entire tier or a raid. And people are already playing a lot in PTR and Myth Plus, so we'll see how that goes. This is what the single target talent build is. It's quite likely, and you're going to want to check this later, but we might swap Sun Fury Execution for Savor the Moment, either on some fights or just, generally. That's still kind of slightly up in the air. So yeah, otherwise it's a pretty standard build, kind of. We're taking our 2 Project Savants, and because they mega buffed mastery, and then we end up going down this side of the tree and taking these as well. Just because we don't have as consistent access to like Aether and everything, it just doesn't really make sense to take any of the talents over here. We have much less like Arcane Missiles, for instance. So yeah, you end up taking these talents. And a pretty cool interaction is the energy reconstitution. If you'll remember this, or from this past tier, it actually increments intuition's bad luck protection, so it's pretty nice to have. And there's a second reason to take in single target now, because it can proc Lay Drinker when it happens. So pretty nice in general. I hope they don't fix that, because otherwise you really just don't get Lay Drinker that often if you don't have it. But anyway, let's move on to the priority. This is the single target priority for Arcane. It's a little bit different than Wowheads because I just removed some of the stuff that doesn't matter for this build. But you know, your opener is exactly the same as it has been. Evo, Missiles, Surge, and your Q, Touch the Magi. Unless you have 4 Arcane charges, then you know you'll barrage, but we can talk about that. So you just barrage if your intuition or tempo will expire. You're shifting power when you're out of all your CDs. You're getting missiles just to get another precision, and you clip it by just spamming the next button you want to press if it's not Aether Attunement. And then you just Arcane Orb to get charged back. This is just Arcane Blast with Lay Drinker. The reason this exists is like if you want to consume another precision with Arcane Blast with Lay Drinker over Barrage with Intuition or Glorious Incandescence. Seems like this might need an execute thing, but that's okay. Then you Barrage with Intuition, Glorious Incandescence, ideally into another precision, but you're not going to hold it, right? Unless you have a missiles and no another precision. Arcane Blast, Barrage if you're out of map. Then we have the soul thing, right? And that's pretty simple. Generally, the recommendation is that you like barrage 3 times to your CC and then alternate. But if you have a long enough soul window, you don't really need to do that. So you just barrage to get a missiles and then missiles, barrage, missiles, repeat. And then you always want to try and end soul in your last GCD with barrage. So pretty simple, nothing crazy. Let's talk about mini burns though, or not mini burns, but just burns in general if you're unfamiliar with Arcane. Right, we have Evocate, we have Surge, and we have Touch Magi, this is 45 seconds, and then this is 1.5 minute, and this is also 1.5 minute. So obviously these line up pretty easily, right? Where every 1.5 minutes you Evo, Surge, Touch, and then every 4 or 5 seconds you touch, and then you repeat. We do want to generally always barrage into Touch the Magi. The thing is, we really want 4 Arcane charges, unless you don't have Magi Spark, which your AOE rotation won't. So yeah, but that is not true here. You can see in the opener, and that's because it's just not possible for us to really get to 4 Arcane charges efficiently before our Surge. So we just Surge into touch instead of Surge barrage touch. And this will happen more times in your rotation, especially if you try and keep up tempo. Let's say you missiles and you see your tempo has like 2 seconds or less left on it. You would barrage here to keep your tempo up and then Surge into touch even though you're in the middle of your rotation. So yeah, just something that happens. Anyway, on to the gameplay. Pretend I don't have 4 Arcane charges from a previous test. You just Surge into touch, press Arcane Blast, get my Nether Precision, barrage with Intuition, consume Nether Precision, get it again, then go back to consuming with Blast. I don't have ACC, so I'm pressing Arcane Blast until I get Glorious Incandescence, so I barrage. Here I'm in Soul, so I'm just gonna barrage and everything. Barrage into missiles, twice. Keep going. Make sure I end on a barrage. And then now I can Shifting Power because I'm out of all my CDs. Blast into barrage here for Glorious Incandescence. Barrage for Intuition here. And then get my Nether Precision, right? And I barrage into touch as well. But yeah, you can see there's not that much going on. Try to queue it. PTR is a little bit laggy, so as you can see. Barrage with Glorious Incandescence, and then missiles, and barrage with Intuition, and then blast. This is what the AOE talent tree looks like. Surprisingly, no orb barrage. We do take Aether Attunement now, though. You don't take that in single targets. You actually just clip all of your missiles in single target. But yeah, the priority is almost exactly the same. The only differences are if you don't have orb, then you're gonna like Arcane Explosion with less than 2 charges and no clear casting. And then also, if you have orb up, you'll barrage. For whatever reason, they don't want you to orb at the start. But yeah, you'll barrage if you have orb up and do nether precision. For some reason, this is limited to your nether precision. Not exactly sure why, because we're not barraging to 0 charges from what I could tell. It always required orb. But yeah, you do it at 2 charges if you have CC and 1 if you don't have CC. So yeah, solid. But pretty much the same exact rotation. So let's see it. For a reason, we don't want to orb first. I don't know, that's just what the APL does. So spend my Lay Drinker, barrage at 2, then orb back, barrage with intuition, get my nether precision, blast a little bit, barrage with my Glorious Incandescence. You just ignore Lay Drinker during your Arcane Soul, so bit sad, but yeah. Barrage last GCD. I'm leaving with 3 clear casting, which is solid. Barrage into touch. That shouldn't have been a barrage. I should have done Lay Drinker, because you can see I actually just overcapped it. Barrage at 2 nether precision with my orb. I should have just double barrage there, but it's alright. What I did also works. And yeah, it's just more the single target, really. Blast and barrage, because you want to consume Lay Drinker first. You can see there's quite a lot of Lay Drinker procs, which is nice. So here I'll blast barrage and then orb, then barrage again, consume my Lay Drinker with Arcane Blast, and then we're going to get back into the AOE burn. That's just now I'll barrage because I have 4 Arcane charges, consume my Lay Drinker. I should have consumed my Lay Drinker again before the intuition, but it didn't matter that much. I don't have a clear casting, so I barrage on my nether precision and refill it with orb. Consume my Lay Drinker, and now we're back in soul. So I believe you still should clip Arcane or Aether to it, but anyway. That's right. In AoE. But I don't want to do that. And there you have it. In regards to gear, there's really nothing much to say. Arcane wants like a good mixture of all the stats. You can kind of see that reflected in their jewelry, right? This says Crit Verse, this says Verse Mastery, and this says Haste Verse. That's literally all 4 stats, right? And in a significant amount on the jewelry. So you really just want to sim top gear. Personally, single target 5-minute is just always going to work for everything, but whatever. And yeah, you're going to take a large mixture of stats. And then you want the exact same trinkets everyone else wants, right? So tough to get. This is by far the best like 2-minute in the game. And you want to use it after Surge just because it decays. There might be something that comes up a little bit later in the tier where you use it before Surge and AoE, but that tends to happen with strong on uses because Surge, regardless of what most people think, actually does do a decent amount of damage. But yeah, so nothing too crazy. Pretty standard stuff. I don't think you really need any recourse this tier for playing Sun Fury. Spellslinger's another animal, but this guide isn't for Spellslinger. So yeah, I do imagine some of you might want to foray into it, because as you can see, Sun Fury's a little bit bare bones. I do like Lay Drinker though. You don't have to pay like too much attention to it, but you get it quite a large amount. So it's nice to have that present, and you're trying to make sure you're always fitting that in without overcapping is nice. So I don't think it's like completely without its positives, but certainly it's a little bit boring for sure. So we'll have to see kind of what they do within Midnight, but yeah. Anyway, interested to your thoughts. I do think that also like the the Sun Fury tier set is probably the most boring, but it's solid. So anyway, let me know, comments down below, tell me how disappointed you are that I did not make this for Spellslinger, and Yeah, and then tell me how you're all gonna main Frost for Prague, because Sunfury looks horrible. Thank you. Goodbye.